No big deal. Move over here.
Good afternoon. Thank you guys for meeting with us today. Today we're going to talk about the State Employees Credit Union that we are bidding, and if we receive this bid, we will be overseeing this project for the next year or so. To introduce our team, we will have Aaron Welch, our scheduler project manager. We will have Joe Coker, our chief estimator / superintendent. And we will have Austin Van Hoy, our assistant project manager / project engineer. A little bit about the project. We will have 300 calendar days to complete this project. The bid type will be a lump sum. The bid location will be in the State Employees Credit Union Administration's office. The bid time and date will be at 3 p.m. on Friday, May the 7th, 2021. There will be a 5% bid bond for bid security. The performance and payment bond is required 100% of the contract amount. Payment applications will be submitted on the 15th of each month, and materials will be held until the 25th of each month. So for our owners and partners of this project, the owner is State Employee Credit Union, Geotechnical Testing Services. Lead designer professional is William L. O'Brien Jr. Architect / engineer is O'Brien / Atkins Associations. Our structural engineer is GKC Associates, and our civil engineer is McKim and Creed. A little bit about the project. The State Employees Credit Union is being constructed on a site on the corner of Providence Road office, corner of Providence Road, Allison Woods Drive, Charlotte, North Carolina. The State Employee Credit Union is a single-story credit union office building that is roughly around 8,000 square feet, plus the canopy, which is roughly around 2,000 square feet, covering a 4-lane drive-up area with a front entry. Bell Ree Road is also included in this project and needs to be completed within 120 days before when the project starts. So a little bit about the project. Right up here you can see this is Alice Wood Drives. There will be a few improvements on this road. We will have to take out some asphalt and then as well as repave the asphalt. Right here is Bell Ree Road. This will be completed within 40 days is what we're shooting for. Right here you can see this is the parking lot. There will be a total of 50 parking slot spaces and 3 handicap accessible spaces. Right here you can see the State Employees Credit Union. The entrance is coming in right here. You will pull in right here with the 4-lane drive-through, and the exit is right up here. The roadway improvements for Allison Woods Drive, Phase 1 will begin with the actual demolition of the existing pavement, along with the old curb and gutter removal to prep the road for the improvements. The road improvement completion will involve the new asphalt in this area right here, and will also include the new curb and gutter installation as well. Bell Ree Road is roughly around 411 feet of new roadway right here. We had to turn the picture over a little bit so we could get the whole picture in here. The curb and gutter installation is on both sides of the road. Corresponding sidewalks for pedestrian travel as well. And like I said before, we are planning to get this done within the first 40 days when we start this project. Right here you can see the front and rear elevation of the State Employees Credit Union. We have a standard sheet metal roof along with 2 types of brick veneer finish, as well as the State Employee Credit Union signage that will be on the front of the building. On the rear of the building, pretty much the same thing. You can see the canopy over here for the 4-lane drive-through. Now, for the left and right elevation, you can see that there's a little bit of a change with the roof pitch, and that's no problem at all. We have a curtain wall right here, and I'm going to let Aaron Welch take over for the next part.
Hey there, how's it going? Like you said, my name's Aaron Welch. I am the schedule/project manager over this, but as we divided up the task of how we wanted to tackle this project, I took over the site work and kind of figuring out the phasing plan for that. So as you can see, the phase one, which is going to be right down here, it's going to be to the south side of the Belray Road. This will be where our sediment basins and everything like that are all taken care of. Also on this phase one, we are focusing primarily on our Belray Road and trying to get that up and going and ready for travelers. We feel, even though we have 120 days to complete this, we feel best about getting it done and getting it out of the way, and creating less headache for ourselves and having to worry about a deadline later on down the road. So that is going to be the phase one part of the project. Up to your right, you can see there's even more detail about what we're planning and how we're going to attack it. Phase two is going to focus primarily on our phase two is going to focus primarily on the site, the building site right here that you can see that's highlighted in blue. It is going to primarily compose of the rough grading and the column and spread footing excavation. Phase 3 and Phase 4 is broken up into two different sections. So Phase 3 is going to be the site work that's going to include rough grading of the parking lot areas, along with getting gravel installed, so that way we can eliminate mess on the job site, especially by around this time we'll be getting those heavy afternoon thunderstorms. So we want to try to cut down on all the mess and everything like that. Along with this, we'll be getting the initial set of layout done for all the sidewalks, and so we can locate everything like that where all that stuff needs to go, which includes like the concrete stairs and things like that. So once phase 3 is done, then as far as the site work, we're going to take quite a bit of a break, and we're going to be focusing primarily on getting the building structure itself up and finished. So, but once we go back to once we have gotten most of this entire building up and done, then in January we're jumping back out to finish up all of our existing curb and gutter, the concrete, the dumpster enclosure. All of those things are going to be included in phase 4, along with getting the final pavement down, and that's how we think is the best way to attack all of the site work that's going to be needed for this job. So the next one, the next plan that we're jumping to, sorry about that, this mouse is a little glitchy. The next phase that we're going to go through is going to be our column and spread footings, and I'm going to talk how we're going to break that up. So with a lot of this project, everything kind of centers around the precast vault that's getting installed. So the primary focus for us is getting these column footings and these spread footings installed in phase A, which is right up here. We feel it's best to go ahead and get those footings in the ground, so then that way we can even ramp up to get our steel erection going. So phase A is right along here, and then we're going to jump down to phase B. Phase B is going to be the primary open facility right here, so this will be all along where the drive-through is, and it'll include the column footings out here for the drive-through itself. Moving into the open corridor area, I feel like it's going to be best to go this because there's not as much concrete and it's all a straight shot. So we want to go ahead and get a big chunk of that knocked out. Finally, just to finish out the building, aside from our entranceway here, we're going to jump over here for phase C. So phase C is going to detail all of the office areas that are in and around over here. And then finally we have phase D. That's going to be down here at the bottom of the entranceway. That's going to be a small area. We don't feel like that's going to be any problem at all for us. So the pump truck will be on site for both the column and the continuous footing placements. Important to note that all the column footings are going to be placed in one day. The spread footings, I think, are in 2 separate days, but for the column footings, we are going to get it out there. It's roughly 75 cubic yards of concrete, which is not a lot, and having a pump truck on site, we'll be able to hit them all in one day. So we feel good about the column and spread footing plan that we have laid out, and we think it's going to help us get a jump for the steel erection part of our project. So now as we go into the slab plan gets a little bit more difficult, especially with those construction joints that we have all throughout in the foundation plan. So as you can see, I broke it down into 4 phases for us. So the red phase is our first phase. So this is trying to get obviously the depressed slabs over in this area all poured and taken care of, so those are out of the way. And we are playing a little bit of checkers with all of the jumping around that we are going to be doing, but with these keyways, that's just what has to be done. So once we get through phase 1, then we move into phase 2, which is the blue phase. As you can see, there's more hopscotching around, but this takes out a bigger area, so that way we can finish up with phase 3 and 4, which are smaller placements, but they still need to get done. And then really the trickiest area was right over here with all of these construction joints, was trying to lay that out and lay that out in an effective manner for us. But I think we have a good phase plan for this to get the slab broken down. Again, wish it could all be in one pour, but that's just not the nature of the plans and specs. Just a couple of keynotes here for this. There's going to be roughly 100 cubic yards of concrete for the entire slab. We've got 7,850 square feet of welded wire fabric to be installed, 7,850 square feet of vapor barrier to be installed. And then, of course, below that, there's going to be crushed stone, and then eventually all the formwork that's going to be needed for our keyways. But now I'm going to turn it over to Joe Coker. He's going to walk you through our exterior and interior framing plans.
Thank you, Aaron. So for our exterior framing plan, we're going to start up here in section 1, similar to how we did with the column footings and spread footings. Getting that vault done has got to be our top priority on this job so we can continue on with the growth of the building. So we're going to start right here with all our exterior framing, and as we finish up that framing, our masonry can go ahead and start and follow that same pattern. When the masonry begins, we're going to start right down here in section 2, starting at this corner here. We're going to follow all the way around to section 3, and then once masonry gets done with section 1, they can follow along with section 2. And then as framing finishes up in section 2, we can jump right over here to section 3, follow right around, keep going, and the masonry will keep following suit. Our biggest linear footage is phase 2, so that's going to take just a little bit longer, not much. They're all pretty close. And there's not a lot of exterior framing. I mean, it's pretty easy walls, so it should go up pretty quick. Next, we have our interior plan. Same as the exterior, we got to start with our vault area right here. We're going to get all that done. Once the vault has been set and the precast members have been set, we can run all of our interior framing around it. Then we're going to jump right here into mostly the employee areas. This is behind the teller. This is office space, lounge area, the main service desk. All of that interior framing is going to be done after the vault, the phase 1 framing. Once phase 3 framing begins, we're going to start on the right sections, basically finishing up all of these offices here, as well as our curtain wall, which is right here. With our roof framing, we had a lot of different trusses with this, so we had to be careful about how we were going to do our picks and land everything safe on the roof. So we decided to go with phase 1, which is over the canopy. That's going to be the hardest to reach once most of the building is set, because they are a little bit longer and it'll be hard to span across the building to try to get to them. Once we get phase 1 done, we'll jump over to phase 2. And right here is where Austin earlier was talking about that drop gable. That's a little bit different. It shouldn't be a big issue. We'll get all those knocked out right as rain. It's built into the truss, so it's no big deal. Once that's done, we're going to skip phase 3 for a moment. We're going to jump into phase 4. We're going to use the crane to set the beams that we need to land the rafters on. Once the beams are set for phase 4, we're going to jump the crane back over to phase 3, start setting trusses on it. Phase 4 will go back to setting all of these rafters by hand and using a forklift to get them up there. Once those are done, they should take about the same time. We're going to jump to phase 5 to finish up our roof trusses and our roof system, and we're going to start with our steel deck on top of that. It's important to note that phase 4 is all hand framed, and phase 3 is all truss roof. So it's a little bit complicated. I don't know why we couldn't get trusses for this one as well, but we got to deal with what we got. And then I'm going to hand it back over to Austin for our HVAC plan.
Thank you, Joe. So to start off for our mechanical layout plan, we're going to be starting right up here in the vault cash room, because that is probably one of the most important things that we need to get done first. Once we get that completed, we are going to work our way down and to the right to get everything in the men's and women's bathroom, as well as into the utility room. After we complete that, we will move our way down and all the way into the corridor to get the rest of the mechanical installed in phase 1. Going into phase 2, we are going to start in the ATM teller room, and we decided to go work our way down to the break room and lounge room, and then continue to work over to the entrance and then up into the lobby area to complete phase 2. Once phase 2 is completed, we will then begin to work in phase 3. The plan for phase 3 is to start in office 115 and complete office 115, 114, and 113, and then work our way down and start into the service desk area. Once that is completed, we will continue to work down into the manager's office and to the right to continue to complete the rest of the offices, the storage, and these office buildings right up here. Once all these tasks are completed, we will then get into the electrical plan, which is right here. Basically, the electrical plan, we're going in the same route as we are the mechanical, because we want to start in the vault room, because that, like I said before, that is one of the most important things that we want to get done first. So once that is completed, we will begin to work into the men's and women's bathroom, same as the utility room, and continue working down until we get to the corridor and until phase 1 is complete. After that, we will get into phase 2, and we will start in the ATM teller room and begin to work down just like the mechanical until we get to the break room and lounge room. And then we will work over to the entrance of the State Employees Credit Union to get those overhead lights and everything in. Once that is completed, we'll work up to the lobby to get this row right here completed, and that will complete the phase 2. Once that's completed, we move into phase 3, and we are doing this basically the same thing, starting with 115 and working right. Once that's completed, we'll go into the service desk, down to the manager's office, and we will continue to work right until the offices are complete, and then up to finish out these last 2 offices right here. Going into the plumbing plan, there's not that much plumbing to be in this building, because you have the men's and women's bathroom, and that's going to go down into the corridor right into here, and that will complete phase 1 of the plumbing. Then we will get into phase 2 and go down to the break room and lounge room, where there are some sinks and some refrigerators that are involved in this as well. After completion of that right there, the plumbing, electricity, and mechanical has been completed. I'm going to hand it back over to Joe for our cost estimate.
Thank you, Austin. So for the cost estimate, we started by breaking it down by division. You can see the electrical and the masonry are the 2 highest in this project. Electrical, obviously, because there's security for a bank, all the wiring for the computers, the teller area, all of that stuff adds up to a lot of electrical work, a lot of wire. We got to pull a lot of conduit. And then the masonry's high. We have a really large volume of brick on this job. Pretty much the whole exterior of the building is brick, as well as the dumpster pad, which is also brick, double layer. It's on the inside and outside, so it's everything on the dumpster pad is double. So that's why the numbers are so high for those 2. Our overhead, this job is pretty small compared to the ones we've done in the past. So the expenses aren't that much in comparison to some we've worked on. But here you can see a monthly total and the total expense of the duration of the job for each of those items. These are some owner quotes we were provided with in the contract. Division 00, if you want to reference that, it has all the information for that. Basically, the owner told us that we can't go over budget for any of these items. So we had to watch those carefully and make sure that we could schedule them and get them done under budget, which was a little bit of an issue, but we managed to work it out. A breakdown for the entire cost, you can see here. The material is higher than everything else, and that has a lot to do with the jump from the pandemic that we had last year and are still going on. All the material prices have doubled, some of them have tripled, and they're still going up. So we had to work around that as best we could. Drove our total cost up of the job, but I think we can still get it done for a reasonable amount. Here you can see a nice even number for our total bid price. It came out to $2,600,000 and some change. So we rounded it up to a nice even whole number of $2.7 million with an expected profit of $225,000, and that's with a 10% profit on this job. And I'm gonna hand it over to Aaron for the schedule outline.
Thank you, guys. So here is, before we actually go in and take a look at the schedule, here is just some schedule outline and some keynotes that we need to talk about with this project. So first, it's been mentioned a couple of times, but just to reiterate, it is 300 calendar days. We're anticipating the notice to proceed will be issued on May 11th, 2021. The completion will be done by March 7th of 2022. All of this was done in the P6 Primavera software, and we've already sent it out to get approved by the architect for this job. Along with you guys, you should have already received copies, so you guys can breeze through that and look at that and double check over everything. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely feel free to reach out. Right now, we're looking at 99 activities in total, which is definitely which does not seem like a great deal. But we were trying to keep this as minimalistic as possible. But we do think, based on the work breakdown structure and everything like that, everything is linked and connected. So we feel good about that. With prepping, though, December 2021, we already know that's going to be our busiest month. As we get into the schedule, you can see that that's where we have a lot of the finishing start to take place. We'll be doing a lot of painting. We'll have a lot of the floors getting installed and all of the finishing touches. February should be the slowest month, at least how we're anticipating it, with just 3 activities taking place. And really that's going to focus on the dumpster pad area and everything that that comes with that and the outside work before we get into March, where we eventually finish up, wrap up shop, and we're ready to cash the check. So moving on to the next slide. Again, sorry, I know this is a little bit crunched, but as you can see, we've got our mobilization notice to proceed in those first couple of weeks. We are going to be working through assigning personnel and getting the construction entrance, job site trailers, and then this long line obviously is going to be for procurement to go throughout the job. Right in here, in this area, this is where we're going to actually be finishing up Bell Area Road. So that's one of the first big milestones that we are going to have completed. And as you can just follow along, it's a lot of start and finishes, and we do have some lag time in there, but that's just because we didn't want to overcrowd our trades from working onto each other. So we think that we have spaced them out evenly enough to allow for everyone to have their own freedom and not feel like they're too crunched down. Getting into the second part of the job, as you can see right here, this is going to be December. That's going to be our busiest. This area right here will be December, and that's going to be where we have the most activities taking place. And one of the bigger activities we do have as well is the installation of brick A and brick B. That's going to be going on throughout the entire, for a good, I think, 54 days. So that's one of our longer items, but we do have continuous work in and around the building, as you can see. So we're still going to be making progress even with that long of an activity. Finally, project completion, another milestone that we can check off the books, along with finishing up the dumpster enclosure and the parking lot and all of the concrete accessories like our cheek wall and our concrete stairs that are actually out there in the parking lot. So the critical path. We're just throwing out some highlights right here. I had trouble with trying to get the P6 critical path, but I know you guys needed this. So here's some of the things that we identified as the critical path would be the Bell Area roadway, the column and spread footings, steel columns and beams, the precast vault, getting into the masonry work with how long that is, and then the electrical rough end we feel could take quite a bit with the amount of wire and the amount of conduit we got. And then lastly, because it is starting to come down to crunch time whenever we actually get into the dumpster enclosure and dumpster concrete pad. So those are on our critical path as well. Getting into the cash flow analysis. So this is our anticipated monthly breakdown from direct costs each month to with our indirect costs, which is $21,500. And as you can see, working through that, we have our total monthly cost multiplied by our profit each month. Excuse me. The retainage, which is at 10% taking out, and then eventually we get into total monthly received. And then, as you can see, our cumulative total as it goes down throughout. But to note, job receives the first payment at the end of month 2, and the final payment, which will be our final retainage payment, comes 13 months from the start of the project. So some important terms that we want you guys to be aware about. Applications for payments are submitted once per month. The payments will be received on the 15th of each month. Material storage, like Austin mentioned at the start, that can be submitted for the 25th day of the previous month. There's a 10% retainage amount that shall be applied for each month. And then finally, once the project is substantially complete, over 50%, and we do get architect approval and the architect is showing that we have good signs of work, we can drop that retainage down to 5% each month for the remainder of the project. So those are just some of the terms that we want you guys to be aware about. Okay, so here's our cash flow analysis chart. As you can see, the project is a steady incline as far as our expenses and then also with our receivables. But right here in month 5 is our biggest gap. And then as you can see after that, we slowly keep gaining ground the rest of the way, all the way up until we cash out at the very end of the job. So the credit needed, we will need a line of credit in the month of September for $890,345 to help keep the job going with paying subcontractors, materials, and such like that. We just have such a big gap. This is a very large line of credit. We obviously understand that. We're not going about asking for it lightly. But we have noticed that SECU has had roughly a 16% growth in sales and revenue over the past year. So we feel like upon completion, and with the way that we have the schedule set up and we know the line of work, the quality of work that we can provide them, we feel like this could open up more opportunities for our company and building for them, and even being able to land more work. So we feel good about this. And then lastly, I'm going to turn it over to Joseph for the conclusion.
So to wrap up everything, recap kind of the highlights. Our bid price for this project is going to be $2.7 million. Expected profit of $225,000. We expect the project to take 10 months, so we're going to meet. We'll be able to meet our deadline. As a team, we think that we should take on this project. We could possibly build a whole lot more banks for them in the future, as long as this project goes good, which we all think it will. And one improvement we think we could make, and we might mention to the owner if we could put this job and start another, is instead of building the keyways, we saw the construction joints out, and we think this could take out up to 4 days out of total concrete time for our slab. So let us know if you have any questions. Please feel free to reach out, and thank you for your time.